Hi everybody and welcome back to another Twinmotion tutorial. Now if you followed my previous one, creating a beautiful tropical island, you'll know that that was something that was superbly easy and really fantastic with Twinmotion. So today we're going to go to the opposite extremes. We're going to create a beautiful snowy mountain scene and go for something that is absolutely entirely possible within Twinmotion with all the resources that you all have. So I really hope you enjoy this tutorial and thanks for watching as ever. Please do a like and subscribe, and it really motivates me to make more videos for you. And enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. So here we are in Twinmotion, and as ever we're just going to pop into our templates, and I really like this new day and new night skies template, which I'm going to start off with. You'll see why as we did with the tropical island. So as ever, I'm just going to drag in a landscape, and this particular one I'm actually going to use a flat landscape. So really do some sculpting based on this flat landscape, and you can see it's kind of popped in quite nicely and looks pretty cool already. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the sculpting brush and do a little bit of landscape sculpting before we kind of texture up this landscape. So let's adjust the diameter of the brush as usual, and we can just start painting in some sort of hills, and potentially sort of the more we go, the more they turn into almost like mountainous terrain. Now I really love this sort of technique. I think it's such a great way to really interactively, very rapidly create some beautiful sort of landscapes. So it's really nice. If you haven't sort of tried this on Twinmotion, it's definitely something you should try. You'll notice that the more elevation you get, the steeper the sides, the more kind of rocky it kind of tends to be as well. So what you can do is you can always sort of add in some of those sort of spikes or flatten zone some of the terrain as well, just to kind of make the mountains and the hills look a bit more natural and a bit more interesting. So you'll also notice that if you go to the dig item, we'll do that in a second, we can basically create some beautiful kind of landforms. So we'll go to the dig, and here I'm going to start to dig down, but what you're actually going to notice, it will reveal the underlying sort of ground plane, if you like, the starting ground as it's called in Twinmotion. So in a minute we're going to make this into a beautiful lake for our kind of scene. So to do that, basically I'm just going to go right to my materials and drag in the wonderful water. Not sure which one to go for. I think we'll try the sea for now, but we could obviously equally use things like the lake as well. I might sort of adapt that and try that later. But really within a few minutes we've already got a kind of nice little landscape with some sort of greenery and basically some forms for the lake as well. So what we'll do now is we'll go to our populate tab, and we'll just start choosing a selection of trees that we might expect to appear in this particular landscape. So I'm going to go for sort of, this sort of coniferous sort of pine type trees, some of these sort of spruces and things like these sort of blue spruce there. You can see a nice little selection. So there's 6 different plants, and all we need to do is basically get our brush, and basically what Twinmotion will kindly do is basically start to introduce random sort of mixes of these particular selected plants or trees. And you can see this is honestly an amazing way just to create pretty much an instant forest. I really like the way it just sort of populates the landscape and the trees as well. And you can kind of have a lot of fun doing this element, and Twinmotion can handle, you know, literally thousands of these trees very rapidly. So we'll just change the view a bit, we'll come out a little bit, and we'll just kind of spray, basically paint some more forest in these areas that we'll kind of see in the distance from our view. So I've got a bit of an idea of how this scene's going to turn out, but I would encourage you to basically either plan something out or actually just sort of adapt it on the fly. I've got a bit of a concept in my mind, okay, and you'll see how rapidly this comes together. So I'm just going to delete a few trees here because I want to get a bit of a view through to the distant horizon through that gap. You'll understand why a bit later. So next we're going to go on to the landscape brush and select the paint, and basically we can start to actually kind of paint using different textures. I'll tell you what, we'll just do a tiny bit more kind of sculpting around the edge of the landscape first. This is a feature that I love in Twinmotion. Now when you actually kind of resculpt the ground, you'll notice that the trees and things actually basically respond. That was a feature that wasn't always there. So I'm just going to create almost like a river out to the sea here, just sort of through that whole landscape. And you just sort of see I'm smoothing off these edges a little bit here. I could do this a bit more carefully if I wanted, but bearing in mind this is all going to be fairly in the distance to my scene, I don't think it's going to matter too much. So we can always come back to it a bit later. Okay, so we'll go and dig out a little bit more here around this sort of lake, just to enlarge that lake a little bit. Just watch out for that tree. So I think we better bring some ground back for that tree there, just to sit on. So basically you can always raise the ground up again, and note how the trees respond to the raising height of the landscape as well. So just to make this look a bit more natural, I'm just sort of trying to raise up the areas here, and it always looks nice, I think, if we've got a little focal point like a little island just in the middle of that little lake area there. So remember that you can use the various brushes, things like the smoothing of the terrain and so on as well. And all looking pretty good, pretty rapidly. So within sort of 5 or 6 minutes, we've created a pretty nice landscape. Okay, so what we're going to do now is type in the word snow and just let Twinmotion pause for a second while it searches all of the libraries for basically things like snow. Just make sure, though, I made a bit of a mistake, make sure you're back in the high level or you go to specific folders. So here we go, I'm searching in the Megascans now, and you can see there's absolutely amazing sort of textures for things like snow. One thing to note though, you can't just drag it onto the landscape. What you have to do is basically drag it into the landscape paint section. So you can see that there's 4 different materials here. So if I go down and get my snow and drag that onto the grass, boom, immediately that grass is now replaced by a snow texture. So suddenly you can see this winter scene coming together, and if we transfer the ice onto one of those other textures, now we've just got these sort of 4 different materials, and this is a bit of a limit at the moment with Twinmotion, but I've not found this to be too bad, just so we can kind of like spray the edge of that kind of lakey area there. And already, what do you think, guys? It's already starting to look pretty realistic for my snowy scene, but you know, wait and see, it's going to look even more amazing by the time we're finished. So I'm just introducing a little bit of kind of grading of the landscape here, just sort of trying to make it look a bit more natural really. And I think with this brush tool, it's very, very nice the way you can adjust opacity and diameter of that brush just to introduce almost like a Photoshop in 3D kind of effect. Yeah, and it's very artistic. It's just something that you kind of get a really nice feeling for, and definitely very, very enjoyable process. So we'll do a bit more of this and we'll move on to the next stage. So I'm pretty happy with the scene so far. Now I'm going to click down onto the media dock and you'll understand why I chose that days and nights template. And the really lovely thing about this template, it just comes with a range of absolutely beautiful scenes, really nicely lit, and all of them having sort of different HDRIs ready loaded in. So basically I can kind of jump through a few of these and just get a really nice sort of starting point. What I quite like to do is drag the one that I'm using up to the start of the scene. So already it's starting to look pretty amazing, and I just want to have a little quick test to see how it's going to look when I make it start to snow. So to do this, you go to Ambience and you simply slide the weather slider down towards sort of cloud, and then make sure you're in the winter mode, so instead of raining, you're going to get some snowflakes to start falling. And you know, never fails to put a smile on my face. How beautiful it is to make a wonderful snowy scene like this using this real-time rendering software. You'll notice that you can also sort of target the vegetation and kind of grow that up a bit as well, just to make it look a bit more mature, and I think that really helps in this particular scenario. Okay, fantastic. So let's prop this scene out a bit. So I'm going to go into my scene and I'm going to look into typing wooden shack, and you'll notice that I'm actually in the SketchFAB section of the Twinmotion library. Now the reason I want to do this is because I'm really keen to see if SketchFAB has anything I can use for just a bit of sort of propping out of some wooden shacks that I've got in my mind. So I'm going to go into that architecture section and look for those. So SketchFAB was a sort of library that was integrated into Twinmotion fairly recently, and it's something that is absolutely vast. There's a huge array and quality and different types of things available here. Most of it is all for free, to be honest, and as long as you give a credit to the author, that's the only condition really. So you can see I've already managed to pick up some really quite nice sort of little shacks and sort of, you know, post-apocalyptic things that I think I probably can use in my particular project. I'm I'm going to open up that library a bit bigger and just sort of have a good look through these. When I find some that I really would like to download, basically you just click on the little download icon and just click favourite, and here you can see the 4 that I've selected so far. But I might just use a few of these, we'll see how we go. Now I can get rid of the filter, and basically that'll open up a slightly bigger selection as well. They can take a little while to download depending on how big the file size is, so just watch out. Now here we go, I can basically drag and drop in this little wooden shack, and this was a fairly lightweight low polygon one, so it loaded pretty rapidly. And you will notice that once you've loaded it the very first time, it's much faster to load in the second time. So using my widget, I can kind of place that exactly where I want it. Remember, it's going to snap to the ground as well. So basically, I've also just previously downloaded some Megascans, and these are basically 3D objects. And if you search for snow under the Megascans, you're going to get all sorts of things related to snow, not just materials, but like these nice sort of piles of snow as well. So these really add a nice bit of detail to the scene. Just be careful how you use them, just so it kind of keeps it looking fairly natural. But definitely they introduce a little bit more detail as and where you need it. And basically they're different sizes, so I'm going for these sort of fairly big ones to begin with to make sort of maximum impact. So here we go, I've got a really nice little kind of focal point. I'm just going to hide that navigation palette at this point as well. That's really kind of great for beginners, the navigation palette. We're going to drag in another one of our little wooden shacks. Now let's just see where we want this. I think we want this a little bit further away. Just sort of rotate it round, and let's just sort of move it over to this sort of side of the shack. So this is kind of coming together my scene now. I've got my lake, I've got my snow, I've got my mountains, my beautiful trees. Now I'm starting to get these lovely focal points of these little kind of wooden shacks, slightly abandoned sort of feel, and so on as well. So I'll come back and work on the buildings a bit later, but I really just want to show you how wonderful the rocks are in Twinmotion. What you can do here, of course, is if you hold shift down and select a number of them in the kind of library, as it were, every single time you click, it's just going to place a random choice of size and also rotation. So this is a very, very rapid way to sort of build up a really nice sort of rapid sort of pile of rocks, if you like. Now a really nice tip here is to go down and hold shift down and just select the top rock and the bottom one to select all of them, then move them to a new container which you can now rename rocks. Now that means that all of them are self-contained and I can turn them on and off in one go. But also if I now hold shift down on the widget, I can basically copy all of those rocks in one go, which is very efficient, and they'll all become instances, which also means the file won't get too large. So you can just see how I can kind of copy them around, rotate them around a bit just to kind of create that nice random feeling. But yeah, this really sort of helps in terms of actually very rapidly adding a lot of lovely detail to the scene without really too much impact on the file size, because as I say, all of these are instances of the original sort of cluster. All of the original rocks are in there if you want to make some adjustments as well while you're working. Okay, great. So what I'm going to do now is just pop back into my ambience for a second. Just while I'm actually working, I don't really want to see the snow. I will turn that back on later when I get to my final images. So this is quite a nice tip. Give it a test, but don't work necessarily with the snow. Your graphics card will sort of find that capability a lot easier to deal with. Okay, you can see I'm also able to do the same sort of little process with those snow piles, just copy those around as well. So what do you think? I'm quite chuffed with the image. It's all looking really, really nice. Got a lovely snowy scene, got a beautiful lake there, and the sky looks pretty amazing as well. So we're just going to keep working on this scene for a little bit, adding a bit more detail. And basically I'm just going to go back into my SketchFAB and see if I can download something that's going to give me a little bit more of a focal point for my scene. So let's see which one we're going to go for. Okay, so I think I've decided I'm going to go for this abandoned house. I think this will suit the scene rather well. And I can drag it in and you can see it's really, really beautifully detailed. What's really cool is Twinmotion sort of adds the snow in the right places as well. So it's already got this nice sort of snowy feel to it, and that's very, very clever the way Twinmotion can do that with these snowy scenes. Let's add a few more sort of piles of that kind of nice Megascan snow, just to sort of break up that sort of flat area there. Just be careful, it can easily sort of flip to different sort of normals, as it were. We'll just sort of tweak. I'm just searching for the best sort of orientation of our house. Yeah, I think actually it's going to look nicer with the front sort of section, that little porch area facing that lake. So, you know, you can kind of bring back some imagination here. That's a bit too far forward, so I'll slide it forward a bit. Of, you know, some sort of gold prospectors who set up this lovely house and perhaps it's become abandoned over time. But, you know, the house has sort of fallen into disrepair, as you can see. So basically what I'm going to do now is just go and explore some of these other views on the day and night scene. And this is actually quite a nice one. It's definitely not very snowy, so I can fix that by going down to cloudy. And as soon as I go near snow or winter, it starts to snow. So this is a really nice sort of almost like a whiteout type scene. I can probably reduce the height fog a little bit if I want to. You can see that one had a lot of heavy fog. But, you know, in this kind of condition, I think that's something you would probably find with the snow. So definitely play around with things like the intensity of the HDRI and rotation as well. It won't make a lot of difference on this particular scene because there isn't an HDRI in there. So I'm just going to go to my HDRIs, and for some reason at the moment my Twinmotion's not showing all the wide range of HDRIs. You probably have a lot more than that. Maybe it's just this particular template because it already has a lot of them loaded in already. But you can see I can drag that into the scene, and now I've got that slightly sort of nice HDRI sky that I can adjust that intensity, but also I can go and rotate a bit more as well. With the height fog, it looks pretty nice actually, and if you get the intensity right, that still looks pretty natural. So yeah, pretty pleased with that view. Okay, so we'll move on to a few of the other views now. So I'm just going to go back to my original one, sort of set up a nice scene view here. And basically, I'm just going to click on the update button, just pop out into that environment. And when I'm ready, I can just basically update the view. So that is now the stored view as my starting point. So now I can basically, I've stopped working, I can actually introduce that snow and basically tweak the view a bit, you know, just adjusting that camera to get that perfect view. Don't forget to play around with the rotation of the HDRI. This is something that looks absolutely stunning on screen, and it really kind of makes a difference. Just make sure the intensity value is right, and you can always type values in. But yeah, if you swing that sky around, look at the reflections on the lake. And just get a really nice sort of scene where, yeah, that looks pretty good actually. So not too blue sky and so on. Don't forget, when you create these images, the minimum I'd recommend really is 4K. And if you really want to, you can render right up to 8K as well. So I'm just sort of searching for a few more views of my scene and just sort of trying to get a couple of views. Now this is one of the real beauties of this real-time rendering software. It's almost like having a camera, isn't it? And just pointing the camera around, finding that perfect view, and then when you're ready, updating. But you can always come back to it again. So here I've clicked on number 15, which is the night sort of standard sort of template view. Set that to 4K, and that already looks really, really good. I'm just going to go through and search for that HDRI. Wow, that is a very, very nice moon, although it does look a bit large for this particular image. I really like those sort of lights in the distance, almost like sort of aurora borealis or something like that. So I'm just going to see if I can kind of play around with the rotation a little bit. And I think what I'll do is just kind of drop down those hills in the background just to reveal that a little bit more. Okay, so I've selected a new background template image, which is the number 20 sunrise one. And I have to say this one, it looks absolutely glorious. The lighting on this looks superb already. Got that lovely sort of glowing light as well, coming across the lake, sort of early in the morning, sort of that sunrise, perfect sort of golden sort of sun. Okay, so I've really kind of changed my view. Now you can see I can play around with the HDRI rotation. Love the way that lighting is sort of coming through the trees and creating that gorgeous sort of pattern on the ground there. And I really like the way the sun's just sort of shining through the little kind of gaps there, creating some beautiful shadows where it comes through the building. Now let's introduce the snow again. You can see if you just go to the kind of rainy area, the snow not falling, then it gets a bit wet. So I may do a shot of those a bit later, almost like it's been in the thaw. But just be careful, otherwise you get rain mixed in with your snow. So let's adjust that HDRI again. And now we've got the beautiful snow with the HDRI, with the sun coming over that lake, just sort of about to peer over the hill. So I think I'll update that view, and I'll also can create new ones as well. So here at this point, I really want to focus on just creating a quick video as well. So I've just gone into the media dock and clicked on the video, and basically I'm creating my first keyframe. I'm just going to do a really nice simple walkthrough animation here. And my tip really for video is keep it simple. Do not try to create a full-on roller coaster view. You know, just adjust that camera in really nice smooth movements. And sometimes all you need is 2 or 3 keyframes to create that. Now notice it's still raining a little bit, so I'm just going to go through and just slide that winter slider up a little bit more. So instead of rain, we've got snow. And the nice thing is you can do this for the whole clip now, which is really cool. So here we go. As we move forward, you can see those lovely snowflakes sort of almost coming towards the camera. And I'm pretty happy with that. So as ever, don't forget to save your project as you go through, just in case things happen. But yeah, that's saved now. So there we go. So I really chuffed with these views so far. I'm starting to kind of develop a few videos. I'm just going to explore a few of the other kind of set sort of template views, if you like. Now this is a really nice one. This looks a bit more like, you know, kind of spring after the thaw. We've still got a little bit of snow on the ground, which is fine, but it looks like the weather's started to break. And what we can do here, if I go and search for my snow, so we'll type in the word snow, that will find all of those. So let's do the little trick where we select them all and make a new container for those snow piles. Then we'll get rid of the filter, but I should be able to now rename that snow and basically then manage and turn off all of those additional snow sort of piles, which in this sort of, you know, springtime scene, you're probably not going to see. So just update that particular view. I'll drag that up to the front there, and you can see all the snow on the ground is now gone and it's sort of melted. It's looking a bit more interesting. So I think we probably need a little bit more detail in our scene now that we're kind of starting to pick these particular views. There's our snowy view. And let's have a look. We'll look through the different views that we have. I really recommend this. It's a really good thing to do. Just keep reviewing the different views and the different sort of lighting conditions that you have as you go through your project. So for this particular view, I want to try something a little bit different. I just want to see what it might look like if I was kind of almost like viewing strangely from inside the abandoned building. I'm not sure how structurally safe this would be up here, but it does look really cool, and this potentially could be quite a nice view. So I'm just going to click update on that. Now I think I need to go to my ambience and let's just adjust the HDRI, and that looks a lot nicer just to bring that sort of horizon line down. And I'm interested to kind of get a little view through the window. So I'm going to make sure I'm moving quite slowly for this. So you want to be in speeds 1, 2 or 3, pretty slow. Just at camera angle a little bit. I'm keen to just drop down below the floor. Just see if it's any better down there, the view. Not really, can't really sort of see what's going on. So I think I'll pop back upstairs and get that view through the window, but it does look pretty cool. And I really like the way you can kind of just explore the views and see which one is the best. You know, imagine trying to do this in traditional 3D rendering software. You had to render in every single image every single time. Now it really is a sort of gamification of architecture in a way. And obviously Epic Games are a huge gaming company. You know, they're producers of Fortnite and Unreal Engine, but it's so fantastic to see Twinmotion taking on this sort of game-ready software and really tailoring it towards the architectural and Archviz workflow. It's absolutely fantastic for architecture, for landscape as well. So I'm ready to render out some of these images. I'm going to kind of select all of the ones that I'm interested in so far. And basically, let's go and export these, and we'll have a little review of these, of course, as we go through the project. Just do remember to set all of them to 4K before you do export them. Notice I've also set up a few additional video clips, and I'm also going to render those out at 60 frames a second. I do find that they take a little bit longer, but they're well worth it, and you'll get silky smooth. So as ever, go and create a folder, and let's review some of these final images that I've rendered out during this tutorial. Now, thanks for watching, everybody. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I would really recommend just having a bit of fun with Twinmotion and making scenes like this, because it's a super way to learn and develop your skills, and it's something that I personally really enjoy. Now, if you have enjoyed the video, please give me a like and subscribe, and let me know your comments in the chat. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.